Have you ever thought about taking out a laptop GPU and putting it inside of a gaming PC?
Well, with this graphics card, you can do just that. This is a 3050 Ti mobile inside what looks like a normal graphics card that you can buy today on AliExpress for 179 bucks. Is it a good buy though? We're about to find out, but first, a word from today's sponsor.
Today's video is sponsored by Wondershare Filmora, a super powerful video editing suite that harnesses the power of AI to make some really awesome edits. Filmora is awesome for your standard video edits, but when it comes to using the power of AI, they're able to offer powerful tools like translation features to easily create captions in other languages from the audio in your videos. This is a huge time saver for those just making captions for their videos and for those who post content in multiple languages. They also have an easy smart cutout tool that helps you remove subjects from their background and place them wherever your imagination takes you. This is great for taking talking head scenes and making them a bit more interesting, or creating some top quality memes where your subject is moving around like I am here. It's simple to highlight the object and the AI takes over to track and crop with smooth edges. Lastly, if you're looking for some new music to match a video, you can give their AI music generator a try. It will generate music based off the vibe you were looking for, the length of the video, and more. It has never been easier to put together a video with captions, eye-catching visuals, and a solid music track. If you're ready to take your edits to the next level, check the link down below and download Filmora today. You'll even get a free trial of a really cool effects pack. Big thanks again to Wondershare Filmora for sponsoring today's video. Now, let's get into the video, shall we?
All right, guys, so what we have right here is a 3050 Ti mobile from AliExpress, and yeah, it's an interesting card because, well, it's one of those mobile cards that do sell on AliExpress that are Nvidia based, and the issue is Nvidia does not like these things at all, meaning you cannot use normal drivers to make these work. So full disclaimer, you do have to use the Frankenstein drivers to make this work, even though the seller did tell me that I didn't have to, which was totally wrong, by the way. But we're gonna go over some key specs of this graphics card, and then Jackson's gonna talk about this beautiful test bench, which we're gonna be testing it in, because the real question is 179, which actually I checked, it's at 169 at the time of recording this video. Should you buy this thing? Realistically, it's not a great price, but it is, well, in competition with like a 3050, which is over $200. So it'd be cool to see if this card does perform close to that. So the base clock of this graphics card is 1,222 megahertz, and the memory frequency is 1,500 megahertz. It does come with 8 gigs of GDDR6 VRAM. It is a PCI 4.0 card, and the one thing that's interesting is with 8 gigs of VRAM, the normal laptop 3050 Ti does not come with 8. It only comes with 4. And originally when I bought this, it said it came with 16, which that's a problem. The fact that it was originally 16, showed up with 8, and then there's no other cards that actually exist that come with 8. I don't know. This is a weird graphics card, and we love testing these cards. So enough talking about this graphics card, let's talk about the test bench that we're gonna test it with and dive into some testing.
So to go over the parts for the test bench, we have the Ryzen 7 7700X 8-core 16-thread processor. And cooling that CPU, we are using the Deepcool Assassin 4 in white. We have a B650 ROG Strix Gaming Wi-Fi motherboard, 32 gigs of Corsair Vengeance DDR5 at 6000 megahertz, a 4 terabyte Lexar Gen 4 NVMe SSD. We're powering this whole system with the PX1200 GWH from Deepcool, and the case is the Deepcool CH560 Digital. So now that you guys are familiar with our GPU and our test bench, let's go ahead and throw the GPU in there and run lots of games.
Alright gamers, now that we have this really weird 3050 Ti mobile from AliExpress on our test bench, let's dive into some testing. Now before we talk about the games, I do need to talk about how the setup process went, because the AliExpress seller in all their glory told us, hey, once you get the graphics card, we'll send you a custom driver that'll make this work, because Nvidia does not like these cards being in existence, just know that. And when the graphics card did arrive, I reached out to them and asked for said driver, and then they told me, oh, you could just download it from the website, they said, which I believe they meant from their website, but I interpreted that as Nvidia's website. Either way, I did not want to download something super sketchy from their website, so I went to Nvidia to download the normal driver and see if it would work, and of course it doesn't work. These mobile cards are pretty much blocked by Nvidia, and you're gonna have to use a modified driver to make it work. So I went and got the Frankenstein driver, which shout out to the community that makes those. They're relatively up-to-date drivers that are modified to work with all these M-modified GPUs that have these custom PCBs made so they can be in desktops, and they all
all work. And even though the 3050 Ti wasn't listed as supported, I was able to download the driver, install it, and it popped up as a 3050 Ti mobile Frankenstein GPU, and it's working great. So shout out to the Frankenstein driver community. That's the only downside with these cards, is you will have to use one of those drivers and rely on this community to constantly update them. Depending on the price that you pay, it might be worth it. This card though is at that line where it might not be worth it, but we're going to show you guys the benchmarks and see if you guys want to pick it up. Now the games decided to test are as follows. We have Halo Infinite, Apex Legends, Warzone 3.0, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Cyberpunk, and of course Fortnite. First up in Halo Infinite at 1080p medium settings, we got an average of 80 to 90 FPS, and the most interesting part about this card is we were only pulling 53 watts when at 100%. Incredibly power efficient. It's one of the things I love about these mobile GPU chips in desktops, because they run really cool, they pull very little power, and for those who want a very power efficient PC build, you can't get much better than this thing. And I really would like to see these cards come without PCI power, because in theory it's 53 watts, the PCI slot can provide 75. It really does not need an external power unless there's some issues with like random boosting here and there, but I did not see that in our testing, so something to keep in mind. But Halo Infinite, 80 to 90 FPS, very similar to a normal desktop 3050, so that's definitely something to keep in mind. Now let's talk about Apex Legends. 1080p high settings, we got 120 FPS with a few dips into the hundreds. Again, very similar to a normal RTX 3050. We had one from Temu, which was not a good buy at all, but a very interesting card. It was a real 3050 that performed very similar on this test bench. And yeah, it's interesting to see that a 3050 Ti, which we never got a desktop variant of in a mobile form factor, can perform similar to a desktop 3050, and that card already is not really great value. But if this card can be found for $150, I think it would be a good pickup. I just think if you find it at like $170, it's kind of a gamble, considering you could just buy like a used RX 6600, and that'd be a way better option because it's a legit graphics card. And for AliExpress standards, $179 for a card like this, a little bit steep, but so far it's working. So for some countries, this might be a good option. Now let's talk about Warzone 3.0, 1080p balanced settings with DLSS on quality, because this does support DLSS. We got 100 plus FPS with 120s at times. Again, Warzone more than playable when paired with a competent CPU, that is, paired with like an i3 12100 or greater, a Ryzen 5 5600 or 5500 or something along that route, or go on the used market and pick up something like a Ryzen 5 3600, and you could build a PC for $500 or less with this graphics card and get pretty good results in games like Warzone. Now let's dive into a really demanding title, Star Wars Jedi Survivor. 1080p low settings, no upscaling at all. We got 40 to 50 FPS, which was playable in a game that I will say on launch was an absolute mess. Good on the developers of this game, because it has improved significantly. I tried to play the game with the 2080 Super and it was absolutely awful. Anywho, we did enable DLSS 3, which was a massive jump in 1080p. We went up to 60 plus FPS, averaging 70 at times. An incredibly playable experience on a card that's only pulling 54 watts. I do geek out over these graphics cards that pull very little power and perform really well, because we're used to these GPUs just getting more and more power hungry. The fact that it's incredibly power efficient and able to push out these results is incredibly impressive. Now let's dive into Cyberpunk. We have 1080p medium settings, no upscaling whatsoever, and with the built-in benchmark, we had an average of 59 FPS, a minimum of 51, and a max of 69. Again, 60 plus FPS, a AAA title like Cyberpunk, which is notorious for being very difficult to run, and we're running it on medium settings, 1080p, similar to an RTX 3050, maybe a little bit slower in Cyberpunk. I think the 3050 got a little bit higher than 60 FPS, but we're still looking very similar to a desktop 3050 with less power, and the fact that you can buy it for less, which is $170. But we'll touch on the price a little bit more later, because I still think it is a bit too expensive. And the last game we decided to test, of course, is Fortnite, and I have to give the disclaimer, Fortnite's a very CPU-bound game, so our Ryzen 7 7700X is going to be putting a lot of the work in, but we do run DX12, so we can still maximize the GPU. No performance settings here, and we still got an average of 144 FPS, with sometimes hitting 165. All in all, a very playable experience in Fortnite. You pair this with a viable newer CPU, and you'll get very similar results. So at $170, I really don't think many people should pick this card up, unless you're in a country where the used market is just awful and you cannot pick up an RX 6600, then maybe it might be worth buying one of these. But here in the US, there are so many options like the RX 6600 or other used GPUs like Nvidia graphics cards. You can get like the 3060 and stuff like that you can sometimes get for this price, that you might want to go that route instead and not worry about the headaches of Frankenstein drivers. But if you're in a region that has very little options and you want something that's incredibly power efficient to lower your power bill, and also just kind of a fun graphics card to mess around with, you can check that link down below to go to AliExpress. It will be an affiliate link and it will help us out. Let us know what you think of this graphics card in the comment section down below. Let's bring Jackson back in here to wrap this video up real quick.
Alright guys, we just got done testing a lot of games, and as you could tell, this card performs pretty close to an RTX 3050 with less power consumption.
It's a very interesting card, and getting those Frankenstein drivers is, well, better than it used to be. They regularly update those drivers, and this was only like 2 versions behind the latest driver you could get from Nvidia, so that's pretty cool, but having to rely on a third party to keep this card, well, functional is a bit, well, sketchy, to be honest, and it's something that most people might not want to do. But if you have no other options in your country, you might want to buy one of these on AliExpress and just see what happens with it. For the price, it's not too bad. If you don't shop for these graphics cards, check the link in the description down below. Will be an affiliate link. It will help us out. Let us know what you think of the 3050 Ti mobile from AliExpress in the comments down below. Would you buy one yourself?
So as always, we hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, check out our other 2 YouTube channels and also our twitch.tv/toastybros. And do not forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
And we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.
So this graphics card right here will be for sale at PCBros.tech inside of a PC Bros PC, and of course it's going to be discounted as heck.
Discounted as heck because of those Frankenstein drivers, but that doesn't mean it won't be a good gaming PC for the time that it is supported. And if you buy a PC from PCBros.tech, you get that 1-year warranty, and you can save 2% using code ToastyBros2 on checkout. See you guys later. Well, bye.